They have to die. They're a tiny country. They should survive in this region. And every narrative they're selling to the people are people sympathizing.
God bless Israel. May God bless Lebanon. May God bless the United States of America and all those who pursue peace.
Public there protesting, saying that this is a complete sold out to Israel.
Why the taxpayers of American has to pay Israelis of more than $56 billion over the years. One is the issues of the American support, and the second issue is the betrayal of the Arab leaders against the Palestinians. Netanyahu is nothing but a product of Herzl. You know, Herzl, the first founder of the Zionists, in 1/3 of Lebanon is under Israeli occupation literally now. The Prime Minister himself speaking publicly about Israel's ambition of having a greater Israel.
אני פה עם שר הביטחון, הרמטכ"ל, אלוף הפיקוד, מפקד האוגדה וחיילי המילואים שלנו.
You know, Lebanon appears to be a unified state only from the perspective of seeing it on a map. It takes just a few minutes after arriving at Beirut airport to discover it is far from that. How fragmented yet united is Lebanon today?
Lebanese society retain this identity of themselves, of course, because of the influence of different countries. France support the Christians. The Arab Gulf countries support the Sunnis. The Shia supported by Iran. Every section of Lebanon is supported by different forces. If you wanted a solution, why there is no air force of Lebanon? Why Israel move in Lebanon like a picnic? Only when the attack on Iran happened by the American and the Israeli, then Hezbollah took the step to support Iran. We have noticed the huge sympathy wave inside Lebanon. The American realized the objective of Israel is different from the American objective.
How do you see this spilling over as this ceasefire continues? Going to be that huge risk that Israel will do something again to derail this ceasefire?
It's the only country in the world, Smita, is Israel, which have attacked 10 countries, which have forced more than 15 million people to internally displaced. What guarantee will you give you will not go back to the war again?
Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of the Foreign Policy Dialogue podcast, the weekly edition where we bring you deep dive conversations on issues of global relevance. The story that we are going to focus today is that tripartite agreement between United States, Israel and Lebanon, which has of course been brokered by Washington, D.C., which has unleashed another round of chaos and protests across Lebanon, with the Hezbollah rejecting this deal completely, the Hezbollah supporters out on the streets, and the accusations that the Lebanese government has essentially sold out its sovereignty, its territorial integrity to Israelis, and legalized the Israeli invasion. To try and understand this situation and also the complexities of the region, Lebanon has had a long, fractured history. I'm joined here by somebody who's best suited to give us his perspectives and insights into this situation and also the wider implications for the war. Of course, we are recording this conversation on Saturday, the 27th of June, and between now to Sunday, in the next couple of hours, when you actually see this podcast, things could have evolved pretty fast. Dr. Wael Awad, he is a veteran journalist of Syrian origin. He is somebody who has been the chief of bureau for Al Arabiya for a long time. West Asia, not just an expert, but also a strategist, currently also the president of the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia in New Delhi. Many thanks, Dr. Awad, for joining me here, that too on a last-minute request, if I may add so.
Thank you, Smita, for having me.
Well, you know, the situation has been evolving so fast, and I could just think of you to come in here. He's also somebody that I always keep saying is an honorary Indian. He's been in India for many decades now, so understands really how India looks at West Asia and West Asian complexities too. If I may start by asking you really about this tripartite agreement that has been signed, the framework, the Lebanese prime minister there arguing that this will essentially ensure that Israelis are out of all Lebanese territories. But Netanyahu continues to say that there will be security zones which will be decided by the Israeli Defense Forces themselves. And the public there protesting, saying that this is a complete sold out to Israel. Your views to begin with on the framework.
Thank you for having me and thank you for the compliment. In fact, the situation in West Asia is developing at a very fast phase, and we are noticing the geopolitical changes in the region is also forcing such kind of a deal to be signed between Lebanon and Israel, especially at the time when the war is still the truce of the war of America and Israel on Iran is continue, and we are anticipating that this could be a very fragile that it come back. However, if we look at the 14 point they have agreed upon, if you look at it in terms of the understanding this agreement, that will definitely bring both the country to cessation of all activities and to have the borders respected, and also that the responsibility of the government of Lebanon should be to dismantle Hezbollah from the region, and all this, what we call flourishing and glaring talks. But at that same time, you see Netanyahu is not willing to leave. He created something called the yellow lines, that the same thing he did with Gaza Strip. He created the yellow line, you remember, and the yellow line now occupying 70% of Gaza Strip and exploring the oil and gas at the Gaza Strip for the benefit of the Israelis. And now also the Lebanon. In Lebanon also they will continue to occupy the south of Lebanon till the Litani River and pulling out of certain pocket, which is Israel feed that they can give it like, you are I'm giving you 100 rupees, but you are giving me back 10 rupees. And I'm not the winner. Still, it's the 100 is mine. So you're giving me part of my territories to them to retain with it. Because if you understand the politics and the objective of the Israeli mentality, and Netanyahu is nothing but a product of Herzl. Herzl, the first founder of the Zionist movement in Israel. In fact, he himself said it 1919. If you go into the history book and have a look at it, he said our border with Lebanon should be the Litani River, which means 1/3 of Lebanon is under Israeli occupation literally now. And that means the water of Lebanon, that Litani al-Zahrani, will be under the Israeli, under the pretext that it is Hezbollah. So the ambition and the objective was not but being born with the birth of Hezbollah. It has been born even before the state of Israel came to existence. So, and we know that this has been on and off, because since 1948, where Israel have massacred 75 villagers in the south of Lebanon and destroyed totally the village, and continue till date. And they have occupied Beirut in 1982, where Hezbollah came to existence. So therefore, it's a matter of looking at it in a wider perspective, since you are discussing an issues which is of a great importance, especially when the narrative of the West give you a different version. It is Hezbollah, proxy of Iran. But what we wanted to do when with 1/3 of the populations are Shia, where they will go. And even these people are aboriginal. They are not, some people, mercenaries you brought from all over the world. They are supporting, they are defending their own territories, and you are forcing them now into a civil war. Because if the Lebanese government, feeling that this is the only way out of this war, is a compulsion by pressure from the international community and from the United States in particular, and Israel, then I believe the complicit of the Lebanese government will be seen in the coming days. And I don't think this government will last long, because neither of these deals will retain the sovereignty of Lebanon all over the territories. Hezbollah said we will end the military, our military wing only when there is no occupation. So as long as there is occupation, there's going to be a resistance.
Is it becoming into an egg and chicken situation of what comes first, of what goes next? The Lebanese prime minister there has been arguing that as far as what Lebanon is expected to do, that it is nothing other than what the Lebanese had previously agreed upon in the Taif Accord, which is the agreement that Security Council Resolution 1701 reaffirmed the need to implement. Do you agree with this perspective?
Look, any kind of an agreement, when you don't take the whole society in confidence, I think there will be always a problem, and people will come into the street. And that, as much as the 17th of May agreement has been signed, it's going to fail again, because we all know. I'm talking from a neutral point of view, being from the region. I understand the sentiment of the people in the region. But we all understand who brought Israel into Lebanon, who invaded Lebanon, and who helped the Israeli invasion, and why and how even Lebanon was created to make it a more for dominant Christian entity, so they can have a Christian country. I mean, these are issues we all have to debate. It will take a long days of history to speak on those lines. But however, the agreement, when Israel says that this is an agreement, a slap on the face of Iran, it is exactly saying it that we have achieved what we want politically without getting into the military action. Because, in the agreement where nobody understands Netanyahu's policy is, he will continue to bombard Lebanon. He will continue to attack and target people, Hezbollah in the region, under the pretext that they're attacking the Israelis. So therefore, the war will continue. So what did the government of Lebanon achieve? This is giving you the camouflage of the current complex situation in the region, where you have a Sunni, you have a minorities, Shia, you have also the Alawite, you have the Maronite, you have the Christians. It is all a mixture. And when the Taif agreement was accepted by the Lebanese, they made the most sectarian democracy in the world, where you will have a president is a Maronite, a Christians, the prime minister is a Sunni, the parliament speaker is a Shia, and so on and so on. So therefore, every sector of the society have been presented in this type of government, which has been lasting and it has been on. But because of the ambition and the development in Gaza, Israel security doctrine have been changed. And the changing of the Israeli security doctrine, we must understand that Israel does not want to see any neighboring country, even up to Iran, that can threaten Israel existence, expansion policy, colonization of the region. Because even now, Smotrich, of the finance minister, even the war, Ben Gavir, even the prime minister himself, speaking publicly about Israel's ambition of having a greater Israel. And I'm not talking of a conspiracy theory here. I'm talking of their own narrative, where they're saying it's from Euphrates to Nile, which means including Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, one third of Saudi Arabia, and 50% of Egypt. If that is what the ambition is, then I think we are heading for a confrontation for a long years to come.
In fact, there are a lot of thoughts to sort of unpack here in what you've mentioned. But I would definitely want you to dig in a little bit more for our audiences who do not perhaps understand Lebanon the way you do. And, if you were to look at, in fact, Tim Marshall's description in his book, The Prisoners of Geography, where he says that, Lebanon appears to be a unified state only from the perspective of seeing it on a map. It takes just a few minutes after arriving at Beirut airport to discover it is far from that. The drive from the airport to the center takes you past the exclusively Shia southern suburbs, which are partially policed by the Hezbollah militia, probably the most efficient fighting force in the country. I mean, you also have the, Tripoli, for instance, which is 80% Sunnis. You have Bekaa Valley, which is Shia stronghold. Explain to our viewers how fragmented yet united is Lebanon today. How different is it perhaps from the decades in which you were actively reporting from the region?
Well, thank you. I think let me put it this way. If you see the maps of all the Arab countries, you will see that Sykes-Picot have divided the Arab world into different countries 110 years ago, when they have the First World War, and they divided, and the Ottoman Empire was drawn back. They withdrew, and then we finished the colonization of Turkey. Then they, instead of giving us the liberation and the independence, they divided us into 19 states. Look at the maps. You will see every map of the Arab country is done with a scale, with that they have straight lines they've divided, except the border of Syria and Lebanon. Look at it as a zigzag point. That is the mosaic of the Lebanon. That's how the French encroach into Syria, took some villages, which is a Christian majority, put it into Lebanon. Minorities, Shia and Sunni, kept it in Syria. So you will see, and the border between Syria and Lebanon, more than 2 million divided between the two lines. So that's one of the issues I should also highlight. The second issue is that when the majority was there, and over the years, many of the Christians also left the country because of the civil war, and Syria was asked during the Arab League through the Arab League those years that to interfere in the peacekeeping in Lebanon. And Syria, along with Arab forces, came to Lebanon. But then after a few days, the Arab forces pulled out and Syria was dragged into the quagmire of Lebanese civilian war. And Syria retained there for a long years, and where Syria was accused of playing the card, defending the Palestinian, defending the the Maronites, then defending the Shia, and then the Sunni. And overall, they brought back, they destroyed the civil war, they ended, and they came back again to discuss on the table. And that Saudi agreement, the Taif agreement, known for that, for this reason, it was divided the rule, and nobody can obliterate the other group. Everybody have a representative and retain and maintain that policy. Now, over the years, of course, Syria was supporting Lebanon because there is an occupation. And we understand, Israel occupied Lebanon 1982, Ariel Sharon went in, massacre in the Sabra and Shatila, everything is there, you know, it's history. I mean, since 1948, you look at the history of Lebanon, Israel attack on Lebanon, we don't see it from a Syrian eyes, we see it also from the wider perspective of a Israel-Arab war. Even in 1956 and 1968 and 1967 and 1973, Lebanon was subjected to all the attack by the Israelis. In fact, part of Lebanon retained with the Israelis with the Sheba farm, where Hezbollah said, as long as there is this occupation, you end it, we end out the attack on Israel. Now, the Lebanese society retained this identity of themselves, of course, over the years. But because of the influence of different countries, France support the Christians, the Arab Gulf countries support the Sunnis, the Shia supported by Iran. Every section of Lebanon is supported by different forces. That makes it a very complex situation. And secondly, which is more important, if the United States is serious about funding and arming the Lebanese army for years, why none of the countries who, the Western world, or the Israelis, or the Russian, or the American, made the Lebanese army strong? If you wanted a solution, why there is no Air Force of Lebanon? Why Israel move in Lebanon like a picnic? Even Ariel Sharon said it, even Ishaq Rabin said it, when we fly over Lebanon, it's like a picnic for us those years. So it means you wanted to keep the Lebanese weakened, you wanted to continue the minorities' cars to play there. You put pressure on them. You create another civil war inside Lebanon. You make people run away from the country. Then you can expand easily on that portion. So we have to see the ambition of the Lebanese society and the objective of the American and the Israelis in the region. And that's why we always see the things from two prisms. In an overall situation, Lebanon retained its own identity, as I said, and everybody respected. Syria also recognized it after they pulled out of Lebanon, after Hariri was killed and accused the Syrian government to be behind. All these things have been done because we know the bigger game plan was much bigger. When Syrian troops pulled out of Lebanon, it was Hezbollah which started getting more funding and more arm from Iran directly, where they even came. So Hezbollah got the support. Hamas came in the picture. Hamas also because of the resistance to Israelis. So all these resistance forces joined hands, and the Iranian, the Hezbollah involved in Gaza Strip war because of the resistance to Israel, to give a supporting hand to the Hamas in Gaza Strip. Similarly, like the Houthis, people start accusing Iran of having a proxy of a Russia axis. But if we look at the Iranian influence in the region, including from Syria to Iraq to Lebanon to Palestine, there are Shia and there are Sunnis, which have already been supported. And we see, from the Iranian point of view, that because the Arab neglected the Palestinian cause, neglected Hezbollah cause. So Iran found a vacuum after the revolution of Iran came to power, Islamic revolution, and felt that supporting an Islamic cause will make Iran more prominent and more of a leader in the Islamic world. And that's why they have been playing this card. But did the Lebanese fight, or any of the forces fight on behalf of Iran in Iran till date? I say no. Only when the attack on Iran happened by the American and the Israeli, then Hezbollah took the step to support Iran on this. That is why There is a lots of objection inside Lebanon and inside the society that this is not our war. Why you dragged us into this war? But we all know, if you understand the objective of Israel of provoking the Lebanese to occupy the south of Lebanon, I think those all fall in the puzzle that we can fit it together to know that the mosaic of this region is already been orchestrated and dressed in a manner that expansion of Israel at the cost of its neighbor can be made easy if we remove the regional power from the region.
But when you look at the way the Israeli invasion offensive has continued for the past few months, even amid a ceasefire between Iran and the United States today, I mean, on the one hand, Israel has continued with its operations against Hamas in Gaza, in Palestine, again, there being a ceasefire on paper, and you have it against Hezbollah too in Lebanon. Just like Hamas, Hezbollah too has a complicated presence in Lebanon. It is not just a militia, it is a political force too. So what is the kind of support from society that Hezbollah really enjoys today? And do you think it has been weakened by the continued offensive?
I would say it's not weakened, but we have noticed the huge sympathy wave inside Lebanon. In fact, even for the Houthis in Yemen, to show that there are the only two forces that have took part in support of Hamas and Palestinian because of the onslaught and genocide on Gaza Strip. And you have noticed that there is a most popular, become more popular in the Arab eyes because none of the Arab countries really came forward or were there to come forward to help the Palestinian people, where we lost more than 89,000 people, including 50,000 children and women, and the total obliteration of Gaza has happened. And then the world woke up and they signed the agreement. But Israel, as you said, it's always provoking and will attack, and because they believe that their security doctrine have changed and the American giving them the upper hand. It's just like the brat of the parents, and they are nobody to stop them. So the bullying continue, the occupation continue, and they're openly saying it now. They are not leaving any stone unturned inside Gaza. There is no water, there is no house, there is no shelter, there is no food. Everything is totally destroyed. So what you want to do? You wanted to force the indigenous people to be thrown out of their country, right? That is one of the issues. That's not a security doctrine. That's not how you integrate Israel into the region. That means you wanted Israel to remain as a dominant force, not to be integrated. Because if you wanted to live in peace and coexistence between Israel and the Arab country, you need to give everybody their rights. You cannot occupy the territories and kick the people out. So under the pretext that this is Hamas, this is Hezbollah. Hezbollah got the support, and it was only Hezbollah. Everybody acknowledged that 1982 occupation of Lebanon has forced Israel for the first time in history to withdraw from Lebanon and to withdraw from Beirut, and they kept only Sheba Farm, because keeping Sheba Farm, remember, it's not only that they are claiming it's a Syrian. Even the Syrian government said this land is belonging to Lebanon. According to the map, we have already signed with the Lebanese government when the mandate of the French happened in 1923. So keeping that means you wanted these things to happen, So when this happened, even I will not say that Hamas did the right things or did the wrong things, but I believe dragging Hezbollah into this war with Hamas against Israel was one of the main objectives, that whatever Israel has done to Gaza Strip and West Bank, they wanted to do the same for Lebanon. So when America and Israel attacked Iran, in fact, the attack on Iran, the American realized the objective of Israel is different from the American objective. It's not only removing a regional power, it's not only decapitation of the head and changing in the new regime pro-American, as Netanyahu trying to sold to the American point of view, and that's why the Americans feel they are cheated. But the American woke up to notice that Israel occupied 1/3 of Lebanon. So that was not part of the plan. So the similar things, when they signed the agreement with the American for Hamas, for Gaza Strip, they said, okay, give us the West Bank. So now what's happening in the West Bank, Smita, you will be shocked. What's happening in the West Bank? I mean, thousands of people killed, thousands have been expelled from their home. They are annexing the land. They are saying this is an Israeli land, no more a Palestinian. So there's no viable Palestinian state to come there. So when they saying this, the model of Gaza will go to Lebanon, the Lebanese government felt the compulsion and the worries that this is going to be Gaza because Israel taking the upper hand, and they had start destroying. They destroyed more than 150 villages in south of Lebanon. Where do you want to go with these people? I mean, sympathy among the people has to see people giving them shelter, giving them place to live. They're living in the open. These are indigenous people. They are not, as I said, imported from outside. So there is a sympathy wave even till now for the Shia community in Lebanon, as much as for the Hezbollah, because they said, okay, we are ready to dismantle Hezbollah, but is the government of Lebanon, the army of Lebanon, in a position to defend itself? What guarantee will Israel give to the world or to the Lebanese that they will not invade Lebanon again? It is a similar things the Iranian asking the American and the Israelis. Tomorrow you sign the 60 days truce. What guarantee will you give you will not go back to the war again? That is the main issue here is when you provoke, when you use a false flag, you will definitely go because your objective has not been reached. And I believe that is the main crux of the problem here. You do not want to solve the Palestinian issue. You are expanding and you're creating more enemies. It's the only country in the world, Smita, is Israel, which have attacked 10 countries, which have forced more than
Yes.
15 million people to internally displace from 10 millions in Tehran, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Jordan, in Iraq, in Palestinian territories. Where the people will go? I mean, where do you want them to go? This
I
is
mean,
and nobody.
it's an endless thirst for
Absolutely.
war, and also the fear that the aim at the end of the day, as you said, to drag in Hezbollah into this war is to try and look at an ethnic cleansing of Shias from Lebanon. That's one of the
Absolutely.
biggest fears that is bringing into the sympathy factor.
That is what they cling to the same, because if you look at the first Zionist, declaration or the of Israel in 1891, which was in the Switzerland, that they made first time the Zionist movement. And by the way, they are anti-this. They are not even true Jew who believe in the Judaism and all, including Netanyahu, who belong. His father is himself is from Poland originally. So the people have come with a colonialized mindset. The Zionist movement have come to this region for this particular occupation, expansion at the cost of the people. They believe this is a land without people, using some terminology of biblical and false or forged written. And because they said this is 2,500 years ago, was claimed that this is their own territories. But if you look at Jericho in Palestine, or you look at the Tyre, the cities in Lebanon or Tripoli, it is more than 10,000 years old.
So that also brings me to that question, because as you mentioned, that the Americans woke up to see that the Israelis had completely different objectives in the war, not necessarily what they were fed about. And we've seen these public outbursts by J.D. Vance, which does mark a real shift when it comes to the American-Israeli relationship, despite, of course, it's not a situation where the Trump administration is going to abandon Netanyahu. That's not going to happen overnight. But, when it comes to this region, when it comes to this deal, how do you see this spilling over as this ceasefire continues? Because this is always going to be that huge risk that Israel will do something again to derail this ceasefire.
I think you touched a very important question is here. We have to see now from the eyes of the American objectives in the region and the Israelis' objective. If you see prior to the Islamic Revolution 1979, it was the Shah of Iran who was the watchdog for the American interests in the region, including the British, where they have in 1953 participated in the coup against Mossadegh, and they removed him from power and they brought the Shah into the power, him of Dawar, and the Savak, the Mossad, the CIA, all of them become intelligence apparatus, killing thousands of Iranians. And that's why the Islamic Revolution has come. So anyway, the American also noticed that the Islamic Revolution has to be removed, and they kept it as a scare crew so they can scare the Arab country, they can influence, they can say that there is a danger on your existence. That's why the Americans have military bases. They created a war between Iraq and Iran, which has lasted for 8 years. 1 million died in each side. And then they came back to the same agreement, 1971, signed by Saddam Hussein those years, and again by Saddam Hussein before, after the ending of the war. So it's give you a clear indication that this region has to remain turbulent. And now, with Israel objective coming up into the open, American public opinion started changing. And in fact, if you look at the whole international community, even Vance have said it, the vice president, that it's the only country in the world which is sympathizing with Israel. Israel is totally isolated now because for the last 76 years, they have been deceiving the world that they are the victim, the vulnerable. The Arab want to throw them to the sea. They have to die. They are a tiny country. They should survive in this region. And every narrative they're selling to the people and people sympathizing, despite the fact that you and me will not give our house to somebody and throw us to the servant quarter and then take the servant quarter later and say, this is my own territories. No one going to accept this kind of a policy. You want to coexist, that's what it is. But when you're rejecting the other part, people of the objective of the creation of Israel was based on a 1948 resolution by the UN Security Council, which speaks of a two-state solution. And this two-state solution, Israel came to existence under the guarantee that the Palestinian state will coexist side by side. Does this happen? No. They are ending the dream of the Palestinians in the region. So the American public opinion, after the genocide in Gaza, and the whole world woke up for this much of massacre and killing of a people. I mean, people who suffer the Holocaust, repeating another Holocaust against the Palestinian, it's an illogic. Is never accepted in the history book. So people start saying now, why the American has to fight war for the Israeli? Why the taxpayers of the American has to pay Israelis of more than $56 billion over the years for the Israel? And while most of the sum of the amount, tiny amount, comes back to buy the American senators so they can have influence at the IPAC and the American Jewish lobby in the United States for the Israeli policy. I think that rift has started appearing, and the Israelis start realizing that the Americans are no more the rich country that can pour this much money of you, despite the fact that none of the American president is behaving as an American when it comes to Israel. He just behaved that he is a pro-Israelis, and he has to vote for the Israeli lobby that he will protect Israel at any cost. And that is where they are depending on the 90 million American Christian Zionist evangelist people, which is the 40 to 50 million, are supporting Israel. And that's why the Israel of existence has come. But I think things have changed. People are feeling the changes, and Israel feeling, even Netanyahu said it, we may not be able to rely much on the American. But I believe, let me end by saying that the existence of Israel to date is based on two issues. One is the issues of the American support, and the second issue is the betrayal of the Arab leaders against the Palestinians.
Right. So just a final comment then. When a Donald Trump comes and says that, perhaps the Syrian new leader, al-Shara, will be able to do a better job with the Hezbollah, compared to you itself. How do you read those comments as the Syrian approach under the new government, under the new regime, changed towards Lebanon and Hezbollah?
I think this is a very complex issue because, see, the Lebanon, we understand the Lebanese society because we are from the same blood. We have been divided into two countries. We accepted the division, right? The second part is when you are American president saying this, that they have brought with the President Julani or al-Shara into this power because of an objective of attacking Hezbollah. Israel and the United States and even the Lebanese government realizing that they cannot remove or dismantle Hezbollah and with the American support or with the Israeli support. It has to go back into a civil war. It has to go back into a fighting. And al-Shara is being by the American and the Israeli wanted to push him into that card. However, he will not play, and he made it very clear he's not willing to, and he will not. This is one. The second part is it's also the angle of Turkey, which is playing the major role in support of al-Shara here, and that they are not, according to some report, they are not letting him take part in any of this war in Lebanon, because even Israel feel that Iran influence is ceding. But the Turkish influence or the Ottoman Empire dreams of Erdogan of coming back as an Islamist forces in the region is also growing up. And that's why the they feel vulnerable. So I believe it's a very complex, and if they interfere, then it's going to be a mess again, and a civil war will break up. And at the end of the day, let's remember, the fight in this region is based on one of the main objectives of the colonial power. There are still people who believe in the remnants in their mindset that they can recolonize this part of the world if it turn out to be ultimatum, or the end game is a Sunni Shia fight. And if that happen, then I think we are heading for a more catastrophe to come.
Okay, I think that's enough gloom and doom for one episode of this podcast. I know it's a Sunday, people tune in to listen to these detailed conversations, but unfortunately, these are the harsh truths of this region that we need to have a better understanding for, and which is why I thought that Dr. Wael Awad would be one of the best voices to get a perspective on what's really playing out. Thank you so much, Dr. Awad, for joining me here in this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And to all those who tuned in, do share your feedback. Share the video if you like, and press the bell icon notification for content alert. That's a goodbye from me. Take care.